And then I went and found that person, took classes, and just really got fascinated by the subject.
Interesting. So, was this something, I guess, since intuition kind of connects into this, was this something that you had, was easy for you right from the start, or did you have to kind of work up this ability to be able to communicate with animals and nature?
I say that 20/20 hindsight, I think I probably had always all my life been able to sort of tell how people were feeling. But I think a lot of people can do that.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a survival. What I say about intuition is it is a survival skill that we all have, and we use it for survival. So if you found yourself in a dark alley someplace you didn't know and you were in danger, you would immediately rely on your intuition. Which way should I go? What feels the best?
Yeah.
What feels the safest? That's your intuition. When you have nothing else, that's what you rely on. So yes, I had intuition just like you have it, but I don't think I had it any much more than other people, although there are people who have a higher level of awareness and use of their intuition than others.
Yeah.
Okay, so we all have different levels of our use of it. I think our innate capability to do it is about the same, but how much we have opened up to it can vary.
Yeah.
Greatly.
Yeah.
So I had it, and when I learned this back in the 1980s, I did not feel that I had the best teachers, so that I ended up really having to teach it to myself. And one of my goals became to find a way to teach it to people so that it would be very easy to learn. And they could learn very quickly. And I now can basically teach people to do this in half an hour.
Oh, really?
Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to be, a master at it.
Yeah, sure.
But I can teach you the techniques, and I can teach people how to do it in a half an hour. I typically do longer, day-long classes so we can practice and do things. But I can truly teach it in that amount of time.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess in some instances it's about learning to, learning to trust your instincts or intuition and kind of, I guess the problem that people come up against is to kind of separate what they are hearing as being genuine or something that just their mind going at it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean those are some of the many issues that come up. And so what I do is I say, as you learn this, you're going to be working on trusting yourself. You're going to be working on the technique of separating out what's real and what's Memorex. But the technique that I teach people is to just ignore all that. And basically what I'm teaching people is how to capture intuitive data as it comes in. So I'm just saying bypass all the critiquing, all the soul searching, all the sifting through and evaluating. Just bypass all that. Just completely let go of that whole analytical mode, and let me just show you how you capture analytical data as it comes in. And all I want you to do is capture data. So it becomes really an easy process because you're relieving people of the responsibility for being right, for processing, for sifting through, for analyzing and evaluating, and you're just saying, capture data, that's all I want you to do.
I mean, this sounds... Yeah, sorry, please continue.
No, I'm just saying that makes it an easier process. And then the challenge is to be able to continue to do that and to let go of all your conditioning. Yeah. Because what your conditioning is saying is you have to be right, you have to get the answer right. If you don't get the answer right, you won't get an A, people will make fun of you, you won't be a good student. That's what we learned in school, right? Yeah, exactly. You have to get the right answer. In order to get the right answer, you have to figure it out. You have to look at it and weigh it and evaluate it. Yeah. Well, in intuition, all of that has to go out the window. So none of that is relevant. Yeah.
I mean, this sounds very much like remote viewing. Have you heard of this?
It's absolutely remote viewing.
Yeah.
Yes. Remote viewing is what Russell Targ did in the 70s. It started with SRI, and then the government started doing it as a way to spy on Russia, the U.S. government, and then Russia was doing it, and everybody in the world was doing the Cold War was doing all kinds of psychic spying, and what they were doing was remote viewing. There's a book by Russell Targ called Miracles of the Mind, which is a really interesting book about that whole system. There's lots of books about it, and all those military guys are now teaching remote viewing. But remote viewing is doing intuitive connection and communication.
Yeah, yeah.
So, for example, when I ask a lost animal, "Where are you?" and I just was working on a case yesterday with a cat, and "Where did you go?" And I see an image of the cat going out from the house a certain direction, and then I saw the terrain he showed me, or I was seeing a picture of him going uphill and then downhill and then across a creek and down toward a road that was parallel to the road that, was above him, and to someone's house. And I sent the woman down there to look, and she found a neighbor who said she had seen the cat just yesterday. So the cat's been gone for like 5 days, and she thought that it got eaten by a mountain lion.
Yeah, yeah.
But it didn't. It was at this person's house, and and I saw that route, and I can teach people to do that. Like I said, basically in a half an hour. It's not hard to learn the technique of doing it.
Yeah.
It's hard to maintain that because your conditioning tells you to do everything differently.
Yeah, yeah.
And the way you have to do it for intuitive reception.
So I mean,
does that make sense?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I mean, and in this case, you don't necessarily got a direct connection with the animal. I guess you could, in a sense, say that you kind of tapped into the, I guess, more historical record or something like that, right?
Right. Well, there's a lot of ways to get intuitive information.
Yeah.
And I talk about that in my book, too. You can directly connect with the mind of an animal, and the animal can show you. And I think to some extent that was what was happening. This cat was showing me his route visually. He's kind of rolling back in history and showing me the way he went, recent history.
Yeah.
But there's also the idea of tapping into the universal mind, which is like the Taggart theory, that we can tap into all that is, past, present, and future. And that's really, when you go into an intuitive mode and ask a question, that's really what you're doing.
Interesting. So you mentioned that you kind of saw this like in pictures. I mean, is that the only kind of way? Okay.
No, I mentioned that because that's the most like what they discuss when they talk about remote viewing.
Yeah, yeah.
But when they did remote viewing, they also picked up data in all the other modes as well.
Yeah.
They just ended up calling it remote viewing. So there's this conception that it's about seeing. But when they did remote viewing, it wasn't just about viewing. It was about all the different ways you can receive data intuitively.
Yeah, yeah.
And so they would get feelings is another major way. So they would get feelings about, for example, they used it to find where hostages were taken and being held. And Targ talks about a successful case from some Italian who got kidnapped, and they figured out where he was using remote viewing.
Yeah.
And they were getting feelings about whether he was dead or alive. Do you see?
Yeah.
So you can get a feeling, you can get feelings from the person. How does the person feel emotionally?
Yeah.
How does an animal feel emotionally? Yeah, by the way, you can do this with people as well as animals and nature.
Sure, yeah.
So there's no difference. So you can get feelings, physical feelings as well. How do they feel? How does an animal feel physically that's lost? Is it hungry? Is it thirsty?
Yeah.
And you can ask the question of the animal, are you hungry? Are you thirsty? And sometimes you'll feel back a feeling of being hungry and thirsty. See?
Interesting.
Or you can get them to just say something to you mentally, and you might hear in your head, no, I'm fine. Or you might just get a feeling, a sense. Okay, another way is to just get a sense, and that means you just know it intuitively. You just know that they're okay. Or you know that they're, down the hill a mile away from home.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's another way, and that's what I call a hunch or gut instinct,
Yeah.
And that's a lot of times the way people get intuition, is just to get some kind of hunch or gut instinct.
Yeah, yeah. And again,
another way
that
you can receive information is to get some kind of a memory that you have, like maybe a memory of some farmhouse that you've visited.
Mm-hmm.
And like when I'm asking the cat, I might all of a sudden see some farmhouse that I know, and then I'll think to myself, well, they must be at a house that looks like that. See?
Yeah.
So it's my intuition kind of going through my filing system and saying, here's a house that looks like where that cat is.
Yeah, it's like what you have for reference to kind of get the image, I guess.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that is absolutely true about your intuition is an incredible powerhouse. It works faster than you can blink your eye. And it can get you data in such volume in just a nanosecond that you're going to be scrambling to record it all. It's quite amazing, really.
Yeah.
And it's quite different from verbal communication.
Absolutely. I mean, I guess artists and musicians and all kind of artists basically are familiar with that when you get inspiration, basically, when it kind of pours through you, I guess. That's the only way to explain it. And so it might be something similar here, again, the field that we're just kind of tapping into this and we can get all kinds of information out of this. Interesting.
Yes, and I think when you can tap into your own higher self wisdom, if you want to call it that, and the wisdom of the earth and the wisdom of the universe, all of that's available to everyone, not just to artists and,
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I just...
It's just that we haven't learned how to do it.
Yeah. So, in regards to, let's say, nature, I mean, how do you view it? Can you like go, let's say, to communicate, with a single tree like that, or do you feel it like more like an entity in an entire forest, let's say, or how do you view that aspect?
Well, my feeling is that everything that's alive has a spirit,
yeah,
and has sentience, including the planet. So I feel that you can connect with an individual tree just the same way you can connect with an individual deer.
Yeah.
But then you can also talk to the deer herd. Or you could get in touch with all the deer on the planet. Do you see?
Yeah. Interesting.
So you can talk to all different levels.
Yeah.
You can communicate on all different levels.
So let's say when you get in contact with one single animal or something like that, you can you kind of feel the I guess intelligence or the personality of that particular animal?
Yes, and the same goes for an individual tree.
Or
an individual plant.
Yeah.
And it's not at all unusual in the indigenous tradition to the concept of talking to plants and trees and nature.
Yeah.
That's common. There's in the folklore about medicinal plants.
Yeah.
The idea is that the plants told people what they were good for.
Exactly.
And that's how it came about.
Yeah.
And you read, if you go and find shamans and native healers, they'll all be talking about talking to the animals and talking to the plants and talking to nature.
Yeah.
That's just commonplace in that realm. It's just not a realm that we're exposed to anymore because we are so far removed from what our true nature is and from our ancestors of prehistory.
Yeah.
That to us that sounds fantastic or impossible, and it's really quite normal, natural, and it's the norm. It's the norm for human behavior. It's just that we've basically, I don't want to say mutated, but we have definitely taken a wrong turn.
Yeah.
I guess the best way to describe it. We went down the wrong road, and we got into a dead end.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're going to be able to get out of it.
I hope so too.